Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo, and I am super excited to bring back my friend Jim from CareStack, and we have special guest Monica Capelli. Monica, Jim, hello. How y'all doing?
Hi, thank you.
Very well, Glenn. Yeah, good to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah, I just felt like I just saw you, Jim, and I realized that I just did see you. And again, Jim is probably one of the hardest working men in dentistry. He was there. He was a judge at Dentistry's Got Talent. He was just networking with everyone, and the man is actually back in town. And here he is working again on this Facebook Live. But look, Jim, we love you, but we're going to turn our attention to Monica here because Monica, you're one of the nifty members that took advantage of this CareStack deal and implemented CareStack in your practice. So let's just do a little bit of background. Tell us about the practice, where the practice is at, and then we'll move on to your experience with CareStack.
Sure. Well, we're in a little town in Colorado, a little mountain town called Rifle, like the gun. We are about an hour from Aspen, about 3.5 to 4 hours from Denver. So that kind of puts us on a map, but we're on the I-70 corridor. So a surprising number of people know where we are.
Yeah. and how long have you guys, how long has the practice been, when was it established? How long have you guys been seeing patients for?
Sure.
And what kind of practice do you have? Like, what kind of patients do you see at your practice?
Sure. Well, we opened in 1998. My husband is the dentist at the practice. And so that makes us 23 years here.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have a mix of patients. We have people that come from about a 2-hour radius to see us. So although we are in a very small town, under 10,000 ourselves, we have an area of about 70,000, I'd say, patients. So it's bigger than it seems.
Yeah.
And we do general dentistry with a focus on implants and dentures, but we do all general dental services as well. We see all family ages 5 to 99. And yeah, it's a small town practice. It's a close-knit community, and everybody's like family. So it's a great place to practice and to raise our family.
Well, I want to say this. Congratulations on all the success your family's had with this practice. And thank you for sharing that, because, again, whenever we talk about CareStack, and we're talking about, again, CareStack, we've talked about that many times. I've had Jim come on here, how robust the platform is. It's literally, it saves you so much money, but really keeps everything together. And I'm glad that you said that your practice has been in existence for over 20 years. Because, again, a lot of times people think, well, I've been using this software for a long time, and I'm not going to change. But here you are. Your practice has been around for over 20 years, and you guys made that change. And, again, you're going to talk about that. But also, you have a practice that you see a lot of different patients. Again, a lot of misconception is, okay, well, CareStack's only good for this type of practice and maybe this type of practice, but that is totally untrue. The way your practice is set up, it literally, CareStack works with everything. So, yeah. Monica, we're going to jump into the fun stuff. This is, again, there's a lot of people on right now. Guys, if you have any questions for Monica about her experience moving on to CareStack, and also we have Jim here. Jim's not here just to look good here. He's actually here to ask questions, answer questions too. So feel free to ask him the hard questions. If you ask me a question, I don't know, I'm just going to tell Jim to answer it. So, Monica, let's talk about your experience. So, sure. Talk about what you switched from as far as like what practice management software, and let's talk about the concerns you had in the beginning, because let's face it, you probably had to figure it out the most, okay? Your husband was probably like, oh, yeah, Monica.
He doesn't know anything.
Right? I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'll admit it. Like, I'll tell my wife, can you just figure it out, please, and show me how to do it later. So you did most of the heavy lifting here. So talk about, number one, what you moved from. What were the fears that you had going into it? And then from there, talk about the whole experience.
Sure, happy to. Well, we were with Open Dental, and we loved Open Dental, and we had it for about 5 years. When we first got it, it seemed like it was the answer to every prayer, but as our practice grew and our needs changed, there were a lot of things that we could pull together to make Open Dental work from us, but that meant a lot of third-party softwares, and eventually that drove the cost up to where I had to look for a more comprehensive solution. And all of the third-party software we used also worked very well, but it was just so many things working well, and I wanted something that was unified and more cost-effective than what we had going. So the move from Open Dental happened in January. I made the decision, I guess, in the end of December because you had a nifty deal.
Yeah, all right.
And started talking with CareStack, and I was really impressed with the idea that it was cloud-based because I had tried cloud-based softwares in the first, doing their little demo things with their sandboxes. And I think the technology was still young at the time I was trying it. So I'd gone away from them and gone to server-based. But in the back of my mind was always the fact that I wanted to be cloud-based so that my husband, not that I want him working from home, but sometimes it was necessary and I wanted him to be able to do that without us having to log in, on hardware, et cetera. And also because when it comes to prescription writing, since we were a solo practice, if a patient called while we were on vacation, it was always a hassle. So now he can just log in and write prescriptions too, and that's very helpful. Not that we're taking many vacations right now, but we want to get back to that when everything's open. So the decision had to do with A, that it was cloud-based and it was something that had been in the back of my mind. B, it met so many of our needs with all the different features. And C, it was a very, very, very cost-effective way, in fact, a money-saving way, not just cost-effective. We actually ended up saving hundreds of dollars a month by making the switch. And I couldn't believe we could find something that could save us money and work as well or better than what we had.
Monica, let me ask you this. How many other softwares were you using prior to switching to CareStack with Open Dental? How many?
We started way back in the 90s, in the end of the 90s when we came here. Our very first software was PracticeWorks, I think.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, it was SoftDent. Then we went to PracticeWorks within a year, but it's still the same company. And we stayed with them for a really long time. When we moved to our new offices in 2009, so we were 10 years with PracticeWorks, we moved to our new office in 2009. And at the time, because we were building a new facility, that's when I was thinking, oh, we need to change software. But so over the next few years, I tried a few different things. And finally, in 2005, landed with Open Dental. I had tried Curve and I had tried Denticon. And we had actually stayed with Denticon for a little while and then went from Denticon to Open Dental.
And when you were with Open Dental, you said that you had other, like there was other platforms you had to use, like for reminders and all the other stuff. How many of those other platforms did you have to use with Open Dental?
Well, most recently, I happen to have a list here because when I was talking to Jim, I did a cost analysis and I saved my cost analysis from our original conversation. So I had been using Open Dental and then I had bought their e-services bundle. And so altogether that was about $250 a month because you still have to buy a text bundle along with the e-services. And then we used Yapi for our not only patient reminders, the only reason I used Yapi for patient reminders is because I thought the Open Dental ones were a little clunky looking and didn't really do what I wanted them to do. Yapi had more interaction. And then we also were paying for, Dental Intel for analytics. That was another one, which is a great program, okay? But it costs money. And Open Dental, didn't have any real analytics built into it at all. It had reports, but nothing analytical. And I really like the fact that CareStack has that. That's probably, okay, I'm a nerd, but that's my favorite part of CareStack, Jim, is the analytics. It's so flexible and it's so easy to customize things the way you want them and just pull out the data you want. It's like, that's my playtime in the office is I get to do analytics.
Monica, I think you had probably 6 or 7 subscriptions, right? You had
I did.
a claims clearinghouse in there, right? I think.
Yeah. And then I had a claim support thing going on, and I did multiple patient forms because when COVID hit, I wanted to be able to do the COVID screening questionnaire before patients came in. So I had incorporated jot forms to do that because it wasn't Open Dental at that time and Yapi weren't up to speed on it the day it happened, and I wanted to just make my own form, and I could do that with JotForm, HIPAA compliant JotForms. So there were just a lot of things. We used NLive at one point before Yappy, and I think that was it. That was a lot. It came to $948 a month, Jim, in savings.
In savings, yeah. So Glenn, we're the Nifty deal, right? So that's just in savings. I mean, so that's significant. That's great. I wish I hope I could bring that to every Nifty member out there. But Monica, you're probably with all these subscriptions, like you just were being suffocated by them. It's
pretty much.
I'm glad we could relieve that.
And Jim, let me ask you.
I'm thankful to you.
And Jim, let me ask you this. I mean, again, there's so many people out there. Whenever we, you think about switching practice management softwares, and they're like, okay, well, I'm with this particular practice management software. But Jim, how often is it when someone does a demo and they talk to you that when you start peeling like the layers behind, you just realize that they're paying so much for all these different things that do something different, and that they really don't need that if they went to CareStack? How often does that happen, Jim?
Yeah, I would say 3 out of every 4 demos, we come across a subscription fatigue as the motivation for why a dental office wants to speak with us. It's that proverbial like straw that breaks the camel's back, right? It's one more subscription, and I liken it to streaming services, right? It was fine when it was one thing, and now people have to have 4, 5, 6 different subscriptions. Isn't that why they cut the cord to begin with? Was not to have all these, a la carte items, and so I think it's kind of permeated into dentistry. So I'd say 75% of the time we're running into subscription fatigue, and it's usually 4 or more softwares that they're running for the practice.
Absolutely. So Monica, let's go into so you saw the potential for savings. So let's talk about like the whole experience from moving from Open Dental and going to CareStack, because then there's a lot of people that have been asking that, like, how's the experience? Oh, is it going to be really hard? And how did the team take it? Am I going to lose this and that? So Monica, we want you to give you your experience of going through this, and tell us how was it, and tell us about the whole process.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It was solely my decision, number one. I talked to the team to let them know something would be coming, but I didn't want to get a whole bunch of yays and nays on my decision. That's just kind of how I make the decisions. But I did have everyone playing around in the sandbox a good month before we went live. And that was super helpful. Thank you guys for having that sandbox and that almost a whole month of playtime. I love the way CareStack did the transition for us, because they gave us a sandbox account, and they gave us a training, which is what the young lady named Jennifer who does the training. She's very in depth. And I had my team, we have 1.5 hour weekly meetings that we do every Thursday. And we spent that 1.5 hour for the first 4 weeks going through the Lessonly, the CareStack University, and doing the training prior to going live. And so that was very helpful and helped ease the team into it. And I would recommend that same schedule or even longer for anyone else who does the transition, to use the Lessonly and the sandbox prior to going live. So the transition was actually relatively smooth. As always, when you're doing a big thing, there's hiccups. I mean, there were hiccups, but there was nothing that anybody was pulling their hair out over or overly resentful of. One of the things that's really nice is they have that support chat feature. So, and they have Danae. What can I say about Danae? Danae is better than support chat. Whenever we needed to take care of anything, I could just call or text Danae, and she was on it immediately. And the few times that, as we were transitioning out, when I was beginning to feel anxious because Danae wasn't going to be right by my side, instead I was able to transition and use the chat text feature, the chat feature. Chat support is amazing, and those guys, I don't know who you have back there, Jim, but they are amazing, and they know their stuff. And when they need to get more information, they never just, they don't sit there and fudge. They'll say to you, I'll get back to you, and then they do get back to you, which my time is precious, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate someone who can just right off the bat say, you know what, I'm going to get help on this. And so there's been a few things like that, and that's okay. That you expect that during a transition. And I'd say that we were running, I'd say 90% efficiency And we're getting to where we want to be as things are handled and tweaked. Because for one thing, the payment system, we had a separate payment provider, and I didn't like them, and they were integrated into Open Dental, but I didn't want to use them when we were in CareStack, and CareStack had its own payment portal. Well, we had some glitches with getting the text to pay to work and a few other things, which was another one of the reasons I switched, actually, Jim, was text to pay. I love it. And since it's been working, our revenue has really shot up. Our collections is really
awesome.
That's amazing.
Our patients absolutely love it, I have to tell you.
Does the team love it?
The team loves it, yes.
Yeah, because it makes it easier for them, right?
It does. Well, we have a swiper terminal, but and some people use that, but a lot of people don't want to touch things, and it's different. And also for our AR, for our outstanding accounts receivable, some patients just haven't come back yet, and it's super easy to send them a text to pay. Well, I send them first a little note to let them know that text to pay is coming and what it's for, to remind them because they haven't been in for a while.
Sure.
And then I send the text to pay. And our first one was, I think it was like $611. And the person paid it by text. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
Because normally we would have been sending bills and all this stuff post-COVID. And we haven't sent out a bill in a couple of years, to be honest with you. But we were using a third, thank you for that, Jim. You reminded me. And this is a price I forgot to put in there. We were using a third-party system for text to pay called Abella, which is a great system, and we've been using it. Have you heard of that?
I have, yes.
For about a year. It's wonderful, but now it's built in, so that's another expense I don't have to have.
Hey, Jim, that's something that you need to add to your presentation.
I will. I'll put that in our ecosystem. Glenn, I have to pay Monica a compliment here, and I think for your audience it's really important that her practice is really the model of how to go through a transition, right? And what I mean by that is organized. They were doing their lessons like, Monica mentioned CareStack University or Lessonly. That's our robust closed loop learning system, right? It's not YouTube videos. You go in there, you take the courses. Monica can see the scores. She can see how her staff is logging in. There's progress checks. But they were doing the work. So when we had those weekly calls with Danae, they weren't coming out of the blue, right? So they were really successful. They were moving at a great pace. And that's the archetype of like how you want to do an onboarding or an implementation. And I give her a lot of credit. And that's really important that the organization has that kind of mindset that they want to make this successful. And I would just, I would mention that to your audience because we want it to be successful and we need to have the buy-in really of the principals, in this case, Monica and Dr. Capelli, that want to see this through, but also the team. The team wants to see it through.
Right.
So thank you, Monica, for being a great partner.
You're welcome. And I have to give you guys compliments because one of the things I love about the CareStack University, which no other software we've ever done has had it dialed in the way you do. So you have to set up profiles for your different users. And so front desk, assistant, hygienist, there's different profiles for their different places in the practice. And then the lessons are tailored to them based on their profile. So everybody doesn't have to learn every single thing. Although we do cross-train our girls, they need to know a little bit of everything, but they don't need in-depth knowledge in every area. So the hygienists and the assistants know the clinical side of it really, really well. My poor husband, I don't know. He depends on us a lot. But
I'm right there with him. I'm the same way.
And he's got other things to do. That's not profitable for him to be sitting down, using the software. But the girl who does the labs needed to know how to do the referrals and do the lab cases. And so the software lessons were targeted to what they needed to know most with a brief overview of how to check in, check out, and all of the basics. And it really helped save a lot of frustration for a lot of people. And I also noticed that our girls like to get in there and they like to play with it. They really do like to play because it's such a fun and intuitive platform. Now, I'm not saying there's never any frustrations. We were with Open Dental a really, really long time, and we've had to get used to moving away from it. Open Dental is robust and it has a lot of good things to offer, but our server was a Windows 2008 and we were about to have to spend $2,000 to upgrade it, and I just wasn't going to do that. And so not only did I not have to spend $10,000 to upgrade a server and stay server bound, but I was able to save money a lot I didn't even count the 10,000 I saved, Jim, by not having to buy a server.
I know you're gonna have to invite me up for a ski trip next winter. I'm gonna go to Aspen.
I think we should. But it's interesting because Jim then hooked us up with an IT company called Dark Horse, and they're helping us move away from the server-based thing to what they call an NAS device or something. I've never heard of it. I'm not a great IT person, but I knew I didn't want to, invest in a server. So with part of that package was the tech support, and they're doing a great job for us too.
Well, that sounds great. I'm actually going to go back to Jim in a little bit and talk about how they do the onboarding, because I was giving them a hard time when we first got connected. I was like, why do you guys spend so much time on the onboarding, man? What's the deal? Well, now I know why. We'll talk more about that. But Monica, I gotta let you know that I know you love CareStack University and how it helps you kind of adopt CareStack, but I don't know if you know this, but CareStack University is actually expanding, where you're going to get free training from people like Dr. Travis Campbell, like Dr. Christopher Phelps, Manal Sampat, who is like a marketing wizard. She is actually doing modules there. So actually all CareStack users are going to have access to this other part of the university where you learn things about how to deal with insurance, how to answer calls, how to do case acceptance, and it's all free for CareStack users.
I had no idea, but that
I just wanted to let you know, like, we've been recording. Again, I've been organized. We've been recording there. There's going to be amazing thing. And again, it's like free training that you can log on, just like how you did with CareStack University. And you and your team and Doc can also watch it as well. It's free for CareStack users. And that's basically what CareStack's about. They want to keep on supporting their practices. And so anyways, I wanted to let you know that was down, that's getting in the pipeline. You're going to be seeing it soon.
I'm excited. And that brings to mind another thing that CareStack has worked so well with, because we've been using a third-party company to do our insurance claims for a while. And when we were switching to CareStack, the one we were using did not work with CareStack, and they had no vision for it. They just couldn't imagine doing that. They wanted to be logged into our server and all this stuff. And I was like, no, we're not going to be using it. So you can log in if you want, but you won't get any information. So through Nifty Thrifty again, I got in touch with DDS support, and they are doing our claim, DCS dental claim support. Anyway, they're doing our, so they're the ones, what's her name? Blakely, Brenda? Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to remember correctly.
Yeah, Brenda.
Yes, Brenda, thank you. And they're doing our claims now, because I hired one of their remote assistants, and I just gave her in-depth. Awesome. This is exciting that you're going to be having insurance training as part of Lessonly, because she and I trained together for about 6 weeks to get her to where I wanted to be with the claims. So what's lovely, and I have to tell you this is the advantage of cloud-based over anything else, because when you're server bound, there's so many things you can't do. For instance, my remote assistant could not have done this with the other company. Courtney, who's our remote assistant, can actually have a very restricted user profile that I set up with a virtual assistant. She can do what she needs to do. I can give her, very pinpointed positions within the insurance module that she can and can't do. I mean, it's yes, no, when you're setting up the profiles, you just pick the permissions you want, but they really drill down so that everything that she doesn't need to access, she can't access, basically. And she gets exactly what she needs. And I was able to train her because we're both on the same system at the same time. It's super easy to screen share and help her through things that she gets tangled up with. And because of that, Jim, that's another, we're saving a lot by using a remote assistant, much more so. It's about the third of the price it would have been. Wow. If we were a third of the cost of hiring someone to sit in my office and do the same thing she's doing.
And the fact that it's cloud-based is so much easier for them to get access. And that's another advantage there that I didn't even think about there, Jim. That's something that you need to, Monica's just hooking you up with more things to put in your
great ideas, right? It's also fun to see the Nifty ecosystem, Glenn, come together, right? Between CareStack, Dark Horse Tech. Yeah, and I don't want to butcher their name. Is it DDS support? What's the name of the firm?
Support DDS. Again, everything works together. Yeah, and I need to loop them in. They need to do some kind of nifty deal with CareStack too, right there. But I love that. Now,
let me tell you, the text to pay in CareStack and the integration with your payment provider, it was glitchy at first, but they've gotten it figured out, and now we can have her. You know how you get all those electronic remittances now that they're credit card payments. We can process them right in BluePay. And that's really good, because even with the other company that we were using before, we had to run the BluePay in a fake account, and then she would post it like a check payment in Open Dental, and it was getting very confusing. Now we can post it as it's supposed to be, running the quick remit through the BluePay interface in CareStack, so everything just works like butter. It's wonderful.
I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
I love it. So Jim, I'm going to go back to you, because again, Monica had brought up something about how there's like the sandbox environment, so they can kind of learn it, and using the Lessonly as well. And I remember when we first talked about the whole process of onboarding someone, you were like, well, we like to spend some time there to make sure they really knew it. And I'm like, Jim, why are you taking so long, man? No one wants to go through that long thing. Man, that's a big waste of time. But you know what? Just hearing this here, hearing how you guys really wanted to make sure that your clients learned it before they moved on. Is that kind of like the theory behind just this very, very structured and thorough onboarding process? Was that the reason, just to make sure that they knew what they were doing before they actually went live?
Definitely so. Like, we want to do a lot of practice, and we're firm believers that, if you fish for a person, you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. And so, like Monica mentioned, it's a practical application, right? It's going to the university, reading about it, but then going and doing it in the sandbox. The sandbox is not your PHI. It's not your real life patients, not your revenue cycle. You can make mistakes there, and it's designed for that. So we're not big believers in sitting in front of your computer, take an hour-long course, a 20-question quiz, and then go on the next one. We want the practical part. That's really important and a central part of CareStack. The other piece I want to mention is most software companies, they want you to close the practice. And the legacy companies, whether it's Dentrix or Eaglesoft, hey, Monica, close your office for 2 days. That's production. You're never going to get that back. That's not fair to the practice, right? So we don't want to close a practice. We want to do this methodically. We want people to be able to do the training online on the weekends and the evenings. That's the advantage of cloud-based, right? Whenever it's convenient for them. So the office can close on Friday. We can do the data transition over the weekend, and then we go live on Monday. And you're seeing patients, and Danae, your implementation lead, they're there to support you on the go live day.
Yeah. She came in person to our office, and it was one of the best things we ever did was have her for that whole day. She is magical. I don't know how she does what she does, but she puts everybody at ease. She answers every question. What she can't answer, she gets immediate results to her little phone is in her hand the whole time. And she took such good care of our team. The ladies loved her. We had, they had a chance to write out their questions, anything that they were feeling a little glitchy on. I told them ahead of time that she was going to be there. Right. And she just did a fantastic job. Everyone's confidence was increased by, I'd say, 100%, frankly. I felt better because, to be honest with you, I felt the weight of having to learn everything and know everything, which I don't still. It's actually a good thing for me to go to the girls and say, show me how to do this. I know the surface of a lot of stuff. I don't know everything in depth. And, but I feel really good that by following Danae around and having her there to answer questions that had to do with me, with the management side of it, I felt everybody else was in really good hands with her there to answer all of their questions. And so I no longer feel like I have to know everything, because that's a burden, really hard burden to carry.
So Monica, let me ask you this. So for those who are watching, and there's going to be people that's going to be watching later, and they've done the demo already, and they've been waiting for someone to say, okay, this is what happened and everything. What would you say to them if they're on the fence right now and they like it, but they're just kind of scared to take that next step because it's moving on to something new? What would you say to those practice owners, those team members who are kind of on the fence right now?
Well, I would say that if it's important to you, it's worth doing. It doesn't matter how hard it is, number one. this just happened not to be hard. But if it was hard, I think I still would have done it because the advantages far outweigh any of the costs that were associated with moving for me. And with my team, I'm seeing them really be able to be a lot more productive. Our labs are tight now. We're not losing cases. Everything just works. It's so easy. And there's no price you can put on that, number one. And there's no amount of training that any other software that I've had I could have done in such a short period of time. You realize we just went live February 1st. So it has really changed our practice. I didn't even mention the virtual consults. We've planned 5 full arches, right? So, you know, this is practice changing in the best way possible. And so anyone who's on the fence, whichever fence you're sitting on, first of all, just as a general rule of business, you can't sit there too long. Okay, you have to make a decision. And when it comes to CareStack, I'd say for our practice, it was a very, very good decision. We've been in business 23 years. It's never too late to get better. And this has been better.
I love it. Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing that. And that makes me really happy because, again, that's the reason why this group was created. It was to connect practices and team members and doctors with the right companies and really help them save money and get to the next level. So I'm really happy that all these resources has really helped your practice out and your family out as well. And now, Jim, you know, there's people that took the demo. Hopefully they're watching this right now, but there's people who have not, right? Who have been just kind of like just watching, just lurking. There's a lot of lurkers in Nifty Thrifty. They're watching. They're just waiting for someone else to take some action. There were guys, Monica and her family, they took some action there. They adopted CareStack in their practice. So, Jim, for those who are now, they're like, okay, now that someone went through it and they emerged unscathed, now I want to try something out. What's the next steps here? What's the next steps here? We used to do a lot of demos now, but what's the next steps here?
Sure. So there's a couple things I'd mention. I mean, obviously in the group, you can just tag me and ask for a demo, and we can schedule that, and we can direct message. I would also ask your members to join the CareStack Champions group. That's a public group really just focused on CareStack, and that's where we're making all our announcements, like Glenn and Monica, right about, you know, we're adding this to the functionality. We have a CE course that we're sponsoring, and we're providing at no charge, or announcing like a new university member. So join the CareStack Champions Facebook group. That's where you can socialize with other people that are using the software. And by the way, it's unvarnished. We're going to have conversations. Monica mentioned that there are challenges and struggles, and it's how a company responds, right? I'm not going to tell you that this is the easiest transition you're going to make in your practice. I'd be misleading the members, Dr. Vo, and I don't want to do that. But it's how do we respond to the adversity, right? When you're faced by that. So join the group. That's where I would go. Tag me in a note in Nifty Thrifty. Go to our website and click on Book a Demo. And make sure that when you book a demo that you want to mention that you heard about us from Nifty.
Because you want the Nifty deal.
Yeah, exactly. They want the Nifty deal, right?
And you know what? I'll add this too as well, is that, you know what, Monica, I'm going to ask you this, right? Yes, anything new, you got to put a little work into it. But Monica, talk about the type of service you got from the CareStack team while you were going through this and compare it to what you had in the past. Did you get this type of service from those other companies?
I always, I can't say, I was with Open Dental for a long time. Their service, the path is different for your service. You call in, you leave a message, and someone gets back to you.
Yeah.
The chat feature is amazing. Everybody is knowledgeable, friendly, and when, as I said, when they don't know something, they will get back to you, but at least you get that hit first time. When you're with Danae those first 6 weeks, and then she also has transitioned us off, but I haven't had the call for personal support in a long time. The chat is little glitchy things that I might need to know in a moment. But that hands-on, like really hand-holding, I've never had service like that. It was invaluable to me. And it was a real confidence builder in the company and the company philosophy of giving excellent service. And then you have an incredible team around you, Jim. These it's only when women I talk to, but they're just amazing. and so supportive. And also, like Jim, you're correct. Not everything went 100% according to my wish list, but I like the fact that I never felt like I was a nuisance or that something couldn't be handled. It was just a matter of time. Even getting my little reports, because I told you I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to reports, and I had some things I wanted, and right away I was put into this wonderful analytics dashboard that I live and die by every week now. I love it. It is better than dental intel, should I say that? I know it's like the holy grail of analytics, but because I can tailor it so specifically to what I want and the exact reports that I need to pull, it's been, I showed it actually to my hygienist. She was always asking, where do you get all these numbers from in production? And I was able to take her onto my little dashboard and show her her production, and she was wowed by, you know, I could specify which codes on her, you know, she was floored by it. So
that's amazing. And, you know, before we log off here, you know, thank you, Monica, for sharing your experience and being transparent and honest with us and sharing your whole story there. I think that's going to help so many people out when they're, you know, help them get off that fence, right, and make a decision there. But Jim, before we log off, I'd like for you to just kind of, you know, share like a message with the Nifty Thrifty group. Obviously, I want to let you guys know that Jim really, I think he has more fans now after Smiles at Sea, with him being out there and connecting with everyone. But, you know, Jim, you've been part of this community for a while. And what do you want to share with the Nifty Thrifty community as a you know, in relation to CareStack and what you guys hope to do with this community here?
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. I think the key thing is that when I think about where we came from, Glenn, when we initiated this relationship and where we are now, the way the product has evolved is really from the feedback from Monica and others inside Nifty Thrifty. Like examples are, we want an integrated voice over IP solution that has a screen pop that comes up on your screen. And the Nifty Nation wanted that to be Mango Voice. And here we are, and that's commercial. We've launched that, and we have Nifty members using CareStack and Mango Voice together. We're also going to have another option for people. You know, Monica's very happy with her payment processing portal. That's great. But we want to give our clients a marketplace. And so we've added Apex payments, and we've also released the first phase of that. So now we have Apex to compete with BluePay, and that helps everyone, right? That's going to get them the best pricing and the best service. So we really rely on the Nifty Nation to give us the feedback of how to make this better, right? And so we want the commentary. But I think a key thing, Glenn and Monica, is that back in November, December, we didn't have this like testimonial to offer, and there's a lot more Monicas out there, not with her personality and charisma, but out there in the Nifty Nation that have made the transition, and we want to show that, you know, we're there to support the practices, because it's not always easy to make a move that's this significant.
Well, thank you, Jim, and I'll just kind of end things by saying this, that you know, the way you judge a company is not when everything is going well, it's when things go bad and if they're responsive, right? That's, for me, that's how in Nifty Thrifty we judge companies, right? But whenever there's ever an issue or question, it's like you tag Jim and he just appears out of nowhere. It's like Shazam, right? Like literally he just shows up, right? And the thing is that if he doesn't have the answer, he finds someone. That's what I love about CareStack. And another thing too, I want you guys to think about is I'm actually in the process of switching myself. I'm actually using Open Dental, and I've used Open Dental for years, and they've been good. But I'll tell you what, it is hard to get a hold of somebody. I mean, they will call you back, but they'll never answer the phone, right? With CareStack, they get a hold of them. And here's the thing, Jim's in the group, so are other members of CareStack are in the group. I actually invited, when I was with Open, I invited their team members to join our group, and they declined because they didn't want to, you know, deal with any of that stuff. So the fact that CareStack wants to be a part of this community, they listen to Monica about the analytics. They listen to me about some of the things. We have some holistic dentists that want to switch to CareStack, and they ask, could you add these features that no one else even offered? No one else even cared about doing. And you know what? CareStack did it. CareStack made that for them, and because they want to take care of everyone. So when you guys think about these things, think about the support, right? Think about what the company will do for you and help you when you actually need their help. That's what's good. And again, Jim, You know, Jim is the hardest working man in dentistry, and
I don't know about that.
all these great team members. Jim is a big part of it too. So, Jim, thank you so much for just everything you do, for being in this group. And then Monica, thank you so much for just taking time out of your family time to share your experience. It's going to help out so much. So again, Monica, thank you so much as well.
You're so welcome. And thank you, Jim, for making such an incredible product. And I'm happy to recommend it and to encourage us fence sitters to, to make the leap.
All right, guys.
Thank you. There's hundreds of people behind the scenes, though. I'm just happen to be, the face to this group that are making this happen, and we're thrilled to support. Like that's the other thing I want to mention, Glenn, is like we support what we call like the single shingle dentist, right? It's not all about. That's what I think. I want to just add that real quickly is like that's what I think the value of Nifty is it's power by numbers, but it's also representing the independent practice and giving them a voice and giving them the technology that that large DSOs have always had the access to build their own because they have the resources, and give that, democratize dentistry and bring it to the independent dentist. That's really kind of at the heart of our mission.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, if you ever need a demo, you can tag Jim. But what I'll do is I'll also put a link right into the comments. I'll also put a link to CareStack Champions, the official Facebook group of CareStack. Go in there. If you have questions, talk to all the CareStack users. A lot of the CareStack team is in there as well. You'll also get all the new news. We drop all the new news there. And also the CareStack University, I always announce the new faculty members in there. We have a lot. So Monica, get ready for that because that's going to be really good. Free. You can just go to your husband and say, look, I got free training, okay? That's more freebies there. So guys, thank you so much for being here. For everyone watching, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.